I'm going to pull up an article about this. Have you been following the story about TNT apparently being upset with AEW?
Oh, yeah, because they surprise debuts.
Well, here's the quote. Apparently it came up on Chris Jericho's show. One of the emails said it's called Bloat is Jericho. But he was talking to Christian Cage, one of these AEW surprises. And the quote is from Jericho, "I know when Sting was a surprise, and the network was like, don't do that again. That's why Paul White was announced on social media, because TNT said, we don't want surprises. We want to take advantage of the rating. So I think we had a big surprise, then we had a big announcement, and we used that big announcement to announce the next big surprise." So,
oh boy,
a lot of questions have come in about this, Jim. What are your thoughts about the idea that, you know, we've talked a lot about how they blew it with the Big Show and other surprises and announcements. What are your thoughts about the fact that TNT is getting involved and telling them not to do this?
Well, at some point, some adult has to walk into the room, don't they? Or elsewise, the kids are just going to trash everything. Vince McMahon used to call it kayfabing ourselves, when we would try to make something a surprise that didn't actually need to be a surprise. And before anybody goes, oh, Cornette hates ice cream, Cornette hates surprises. No, there can be surprises. The concept of surprises, surprise debuts, surprise returns, surprise whatever the fuck, in wrestling is not, the concept of it is not bad. But it's another one of the things that can be overdone. I've told the story. I'll tell it briefly just to give context to this. The time that I appeared for ECW, the instigation of it was Chris Candido calling me on the phone and said, well, you know, I'm helping Paul with the booking and we're stuck for a surprise. I said, what do you mean? We don't have a surprise for, I said, well, I don't understand, Chris. He said, well, every ECW show at the ECW arena has a surprise, and we don't have a surprise for this show. I said, Chris, the definition of a surprise is a shocking, unexpected event. If they're expecting a surprise, you've gone past the point where it's a surprise. When Vince would say kayfabing ourselves, when we had access to a major name and had the idea to make it a surprise, but he said, no, we're kayfabing ourselves. Why are we wasting this? We can tell people and more people will watch this show. But in some cases, especially in the days of the weekly territories where you needed to keep things moving, if somebody ran in at the end of a house show match, boom, 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 oh my God, he's here, boom, 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 and then that affects your match the following week, or you make the match in front of the people or whatever. It was a surprise when Paulie Dangerously and the original Midnight Express attacked me and the Midnight Express on TBS, because to be honest, if they had said next week on the program, Paulie Dangerously and the original Midnight Express will be here to wrestle, then not only would it not have been a very big deal, because at the time, the whole idea was the personal interaction between all of us and not that they were necessarily big names in wrestling at that point. I think you'll agree. Secondly, it would have tipped people off. They were going to do an angle, and the shock was they don't work here. They're from another company. They shouldn't be here. They're in the AWA. People didn't know they'd left. So that kind of surprise works. But when you have a name of the level of the iconic nature of a Sting or a Big Show, unless it's guys that are going to come in and be an active part of the roster and you need them in some physical angle or whatever, why wouldn't you advertise things like that? And it could have been, if they just tweaked it a little bit, it could have been fucking advertised. They kayfabed themselves. It depends on the level of star that you've got. But a lot of times people are hell-bent on making these shocking surprises to pop the people that are already there in the building or already there watching the show, when there's something that you could have told them, a way you could have done it, where 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, you've built anticipation to see this person, and then you just surprise the people watching with what you do with them. You've kayfabed yourself. Do you want to go to a movie featuring, little Johnny Dimwit and Willy Wonka Jr., and then at the end of it, the big climactic scene, you find out that the goddamn Rock is in the movie, and they never advertised it?
Well, sometimes a surprise is important. Sometimes a surprise does work. I'll give you one that I remember from the Attitude Era. When XPac showed up back on Raw, that was a surprise to me, and I thought it was handled pretty well.
But that's the point I'm making. Is it was XPac? It wasn't Hulk Hogan. It wasn't,
either with these AEW surprises. It was a 50-year-old Big Show, not Hulk Hogan.
But just considering the name of recognition or the level of recognition for the name in people's heads, at that point in time, XPac wasn't on the level. And then if you're jumping companies, yes, you've got a surprise, blah, blah, blah. But then advertise it on the fucking program. If it's X-Pac hit the ring and did a violent physical angle, as I recall, did he not? Of some description?
No. Triple
what did
H
they do?
And DX were in the ring. It was after WrestleMania where Shawn left. And he announced that, when you need to, refill the ranks, you turn to your family, you turn to the clique. The music hit. He came out on the stage. Oh,
that's right.
People popped.
Okay, would it have affected the amount of viewers of that particular production if they'd have said X-Pac will be here also, in addition to everything else?
I don't think it affected the viewers of that show one way or the other, but it created a moment. That's really
what I'm saying. If they'd have told them about it, would it have increased the viewership? Probably not, because it was, it was already there. But if you've got that's why I'm saying, if you've got a name that you can tell people, hey, he's going to be on the program, and people will watch just because of that name, that's when you're kayfabing yourself, or buy it just because of that name. You're kayfabing yourself if you don't advertise that in a lot of cases. I can see where TNT, I can understand the words that are coming out of TNT's mouth.
If TNT is getting involved on things like this, where they say, we don't want any more surprises like the debut of Sting.
Right.
We don't want any more surprises, period. At what point do you worry about them getting more involved if the ratings don't improve, if the ratings continue to go down, and I expect them to be bumped up without the NXT competition? Do you start worrying about them jumping in and, like USA Network, wanting to write your angles, wanting you to script the show so they can approve it beforehand?
Well,
at what point do you worry about TNT's involvement?
It's Turner. There's precedent. Remember everything from the memo about no gratuitous violence on the program with no gratuitous violence, or the program about gratuitous violence. The constant interaction that they would send to Hurd that he would take seriously about, hey, can we do tie-ins with our movie characters? One-legged wrestler and make him Long John Silver. It's Turner. They did all this 30 fucking years ago. They're going to start, and now they're definitely going to start doing it again, because I think by now they have realized that there is no adult in charge of this. Can you imagine being in a meeting with Tony Khan about the national television program that the time slot you've given him and you're paying for, and he's in there hippity hopping, talking like, there was a fan from New York in the old days, in the 70s days of pen pals, named Kenny Levitt.
Yeah.
And we do you remember Kenny Levitt?
Yeah, Paul Frank. Yeah, I know all
we
that.
used to call Kenny hippity hop, because he was just, and then they're going to do this and that angle and this angle and that angle. And he was just, and that's Tony Khan. Somebody at that television network has had to figure out by this point that they know he has no background. He's never done this before. And I bet you that they're not hiding that. If it was me and I was one of the EVPs of AEW, I'd be making sure that TNT thought that it was all these veterans that were creating this program, like the Jim Rosses and the Jake Snakes and the Arn Andersons, and look at all the experience we have, because do they actually know that Tony Khan, who has never done this before in his life ever professionally before buying his own company, is writing the television? If they do, they've got to be concerned, especially when their ratings have matriculated since the start, from year over year and now season over season.
Can you imagine TNT having a meeting with them, and it's Tony Khan looking the way he does and talking the way he does, and Cody in a suit but with that stupid
with the neck tattoo?
Yeah.
The TV networks, this is not rock and roll in the fucking 70s and 80s. The TV networks like stability, and they like the people that are doing their programs to have some background and experience in it. And I unless they just think, it's fucking wrestling. It's like one of these game shows where they bounce off inflatable shit. Anybody can do this shit, which is very possible that they think that. But
I promise you, those shows have showrunners that are probably a little more professional, or at least look more professional than AEW.
I'm just, when USA deals with the WWE over the years, they've dealt with Vince McMahon, they've dealt with Stephanie, they've dealt with the major entertainment, business bigwigs that run the publicly traded company. They've probably dealt with Triple H, who cuts a striking figure. If you think professional wrestling, if you don't know anything about professional wrestling, a guy that looks like Triple H looks like he knows a lot about professional wrestling, and he's got the background to fucking back it up. So when those people, you're talking to those people, okay, these are hundreds of millions of dollars in television times and rights fees and things we're talking about. I want to be talking to people that look and act like that. And like you said, do I go sit down with Tony Khan, Cody, and the Young Bucks? And don't even get me started on Twinkle Toes coming into a goddamn media. He'll pitch him a fucking hour variety show featuring Japanese play wrestlers emoting the best of Shakespeare. So I know he got it on because he travels in those. And then also the guy that greenlit AEW, what was it, Kevin? Help me. Riley. He's gone, right?
He's gone.
He
was their angel.
He's in the archives, Vapor.
So he's the one who gave them the deal. He's the one who renewed them, too.
A distant memory in television now. It's been 6 months, right? So now you got somebody new having dealings with it. They better put Jim Ross in charge of their television, or their television network dealings, is all I've got to say, because the fucking TNT people sooner or later are going to wake up and realize that they've stumbled onto wrestling's version of Romper Room, and there's no adult in the fucking class.
Well, Jim, TNT doesn't like surprises, and I think most people out there, most members of the cult of Cornette, don't like surprises when it comes to their credit score.
That's exactly right. And I had some shocking information sprung on me here not long ago. And I was about to talk to you about this. But Brian, did you know that the average American has 97 points that they can add to their credit score, but they got no idea how to get them?
I had no idea about that, no.
Not only do I have no idea about that, I don't know what my credit score is, or I didn't know you could change it. I had no idea that you had control over any of these things. But with Scoremaster, apparently you do. It's a new credit science that boosts your credit score. So apparently the average Scoremaster user raises their credit score 61 points in 20 days or less. If you got a car loan, and I didn't know it because I can't do math. That's my weakness. If your credit score was high 500s, mid 600s when you bought a new car and got a car loan, if you'd gone to Scoremaster first and raised your score just the average 61 points, you could have saved $9,000 on your car loan. But a home loan, if you'd gone to Scoremaster and got the average 61 points, You could have saved $100,000 over the life of the loan. I did not know that we had the power to take this in our hands and do something about this. I thought that this was just something that was like our fucking secret CIA file or whatever. But anyway, Scoremaster puts you in control of your finances, not the banks. And you can enroll in minutes, which I just found out about. I'm going to see what the fuck's going on with this deal, because I had no idea. You go to scoremaster.com/JCE, scoremaster.com/JCE, and you can enroll in minutes and see how many points that Scoremaster can add to your credit score. Somebody's been jacking us around. We didn't know about this.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I think I got to check this out.
Even you.
Even me, 61 points. Anyone could use 61 points.
The Wolf of Wall Street that you are. Actually, you're more like the knucklehead from New Jersey, but nevertheless, hey,
I'm from Long Island. I'm not from New Jersey. I live in New Jersey.
The loser from Long Island. Then.
Hey, watch it. From the same hometown as Rick Rubin. You better watch it, buddy.
Hey,